program you're still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. We'll start with the first issue. The first ever teaching licensing examination has commenced in all teaching service commission offices across the country. Amidst numerous concerns and fears about the mode of the conduct of these examinations, we have here in the studios the Public Relations Officer of the Teaching Service Commission, Jamie.
Victory.
Jamie, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Now, teachers are to be licensed, which means, like for example, some other, professional institutions. Yes, you can be licensed, but at the same time, there is a possibility of that license being withdrawn from you. You understand? So let us know how this particular system is going to work.
Well, thank you very much. You've said it all. The underlying factor there is professionalism in that particular institution. So the idea of licensing, giving license to teachers, is behind the idea of bringing back professionalism to the teaching profession.
But it's never been before?
Of course, it has never happened. This is like, this is a new thing. Yes. There are other professions, of course, that we see gives license to their practitioners, like the medical practitioners in the country, lawyers, I believe.
The accountants,
even accountants, yes. Even drivers. We have our driver's license. Okay. So that tells you I'm a professional driver when I have it. So this has never been done in Sierra Leone, and it's a phenomenon that is, taking effect across the globe. Other countries are now doing it, and this actually goes a long way in ensuring that we have quality service deliverers within that particular sector. So it's a new phenomenon, yes, for Sierra Leone, and like you rightly said,
what are the criteria for retrieval of license?
Okay,
because the thing is that now, once licenses are given to you
yes.
for misconduct whatsoever, it is also mandatory. But if you misbehave, that license is going to be withdrawn from you. So let us know how.
Of course, yes. The commission reserves that right to withdraw a teacher's license, and we pray that we don't get to that point. That's why we say they are professionals once you get that certificate. But one thing that happens is every institution, before you talk about license, then you have to talk about the codes of conduct of that institution. So that is what the first thing we did as a commission when we became operational in 2018. We ensured to review the teacher's code of conduct. And not only that, we developed a professional standards for teachers and school leaders across the country. So these are the documents that are supposed to guide our work within this particular profession. And we're expecting our professionals to go by these documents. Well, if you are outrightly flouting those, laid down principles in these documents, then you're telling us that you are not professional enough, and then you don't deserve it.
Okay, so Jamie, yes, you concluded the first phase of it yesterday.
Yes.
And more than 5,000 you received 5,000 applicants.
Yes.
But you were only able to approve 2,572 to take this exam. Why?
So before yes, you're right, we received over 5,000 applications. But we have set criteria for someone to qualify for getting a license in the first place as a teacher. And one of such criteria is the fact that you have to be a trained and qualified teacher. which means you have to have a qualification that states that you are trained to be a teacher.
Okay.
You have a qualification in education, ranging from a teacher certificate, higher teacher certificate, a degree in education, or a diploma in education. So that is one major criteria. So most of the people that were not approved may have been people that are still in the classroom, that do not have a degree in education, and may have applied for this license. So that is one criteria. And another thing could be that maybe these applicants did not attach the required documents that are needed. You can't come and apply and say, I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in education, and you do not provide that certificate. And of course, if you do not do that, you will not be approved.
So, are you aware of the high rate of unemployment in Sierra Leone?
Sure.
Because now, if you have 5,000, more than 5,000 people who have been in the classroom, because they must have been in the classroom, which prompted them to apply for your examination.
Yes.
So, in other words, they have been there, but they are not qualified, and they now want to get themselves into they want to get a license certificate, a license to be able to practice as a teacher. Because according to you, after some time, if you don't have that certificate, you will not go to the classroom
The
to
license,
teach.
yeah.
So this is a concern.
Yes, of course. So let me correct something. You don't get licensed before being qualified. You get qualified and to be that professional, and then you go for license to practice. Is what you say now, if we permit that, it's just like we want to say, let me go to law school first. Yes, let me get, be called to the bar before I go for my LLB, which is impossible, right? So we can't permit that. That's how it should be. I understand. That's why before we started, we had engagements with our teachers, and of course we've had so many of those particular teachers that have gone for their postgraduate diploma, and some of them were part of this exam.
So how long is this going to last for? Because you need to create room for those who are interested, who want to be teachers, for them to go and empower themselves, and then they come back to take this examination. Or are you going to make it part of the university curriculum that if you are graduating as a teacher, you must take this examination instead of them coming out of the university? I'm talking about those already in the system. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Ideally, how it should happen, immediately you have graduated as a teacher, you have to go in for the license before you're being employed as a teacher in any school. Now, because the system has just started, and of course we have teachers that are already there, so we're encouraging them to go for the license while they're still there. So of course we'll give them time. We've started talking with them, like, this is just a pilot. We've just started.
So where are the forms? Did they buy the forms that they used to apply?
No. So ideally, teachers will have to pay for their license, and the let me make this clear.
So you pay after you have passed the exams, or you pay now?
You pay before. You pay like when you're applying for the exams. But for this pilot phase, they did not pay anything.
Oh, okay.
But then, Jamie, let us talk about, there are teachers, who are still not on PIN code. They've been teaching for 4, 5, 10 years, as the case may be, but they are still not on PIN code. So what happens in that particular situation? Teachers without PIN code, they are trained, they are qualified, but they don't have PIN code, but they are teaching. So, what happens in their whole situation? How do you address that?
Like I said, ideally, immediately after your teacher training program, you should apply for the teacher license, which means at that point you're without PIN code. So ideally, this one is for teachers. The initial one is for teachers without PIN codes. For now, I'll encourage them that this gives them an edge. Because when this is fully rolled out, there'll come a time when, if the licensing is in full effect, the commission will not recruit non-licensed teachers. Because if we're working towards a stage where we want to have all the already existing payroll teachers or PIN-coded teachers, we want to see them being licensed, we will not compound that problem by continuing to recruit non-licensed teachers. So it will get to a point where we will not recruit non-licensed teachers. So for me, I would say that will give them an edge.
The person I'm asking, Jamie, is that we have teachers who are already in the system, but not being coded.
Yes.
In a way.
And those are volunteer teachers. Yes, I understand.
Yeah,
They are
so how are you going to address their own situation? Because the thing is, they've been there, they've been teaching, and it has been a concern, and it is in the public domain as well. So what happens to them?
Oh, okay. So I'm trying to understand your question. I was answering your question in relation to the license exam. I think you're trying to ask what we'll do for them if we're going to just give all of them PIN codes like that. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm asking is, what happens in their own situation? They've been teaching, they are trained and qualified, but they are not on PIN code. So what happens in their own situation?
Well, what we have been doing as a commission, I can attest to that for the past 5 years. What we do is, when we do our teacher recruitment, that category of teachers, they become our priority. Okay? Because when we want to recruit, we go back to the schools where vacancies are, and we ask the heads of schools to recommend volunteers that have been in their schools for these vacant positions. For example, when there's a replacement, or maybe someone has died, someone has retired in that school, we do not provide teachers for them. We ask the heads of schools to recommend volunteers that have been in the school to fill in that particular vacancy.
All right, thank you so much. She is the Public Relations Officer of the Teaching Services Commission, Jamie Victory. Sanko. Thank you so much. And you continue to watch the program Good Morning Sierra Leone, which is coming to you live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television. Yes, Francis?
We still continue with education, and the West African Examination Council has extended the deadline for entries for the WAS. The West African Senior Secondary Certificate Examination serves as a critical milestone for students in Sierra Leone. Sltu Kamara is the Public Affairs Officer of WAEC, and he is our studio guest this morning. Good morning, Mr. Kamara. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sierra Leoneans. Thank you for having me.
And it's been a while you've not been on Good Morning Sierra Leone. So now let's talk about the entries. Why the postponement of the deadline for the entries?
Well, we opened the portal since November. I think I came here on that day again.
And that was the last time you came here?
Yes, but we have been in other media platforms really.
Yeah.
So we have done that for the basic education certificate examination for Becker and NPSA. But in terms of WAS now, WAS is an international exam, which has its unique calendar of events. So in this case, for our own country now, we have what we call the Ministry of Education, who is the regulating body for schools. So for candidates who are taking the exams, the school authorities have to forward the list of candidates to the Ministry of Education so that they can endorse those lists that the school authorities forward to them, then before they forward the final vetting list to WAEC.
Okay.
So this has been the stumbling block we are in since we opened the portal in November. And the first deadline was supposed to be on the 31st January. So the ministry was still vetting those lists. And it was recently, I think the end of last week, that they have already forwarded the list to us, and now again we have to open the portal again for the schools to do their entries, to upload the details of their candidate. But the unique aspect of this entry system, as we have been talking here, we have what we call a yearly card system, wherein the schools we have already requested or we have asked them to forward the continuous assessment for their candidates. When you have your candidate from SS1, the moment that candidate is promoted to SS2, the continuous assessment for the candidate for SS1 is supposed to have forwarded it, and school authorities have forwarded those details to us. So now that we have asked them to forward the entries for those candidates that the ministry have vetted, it's like all the school need to do now is to go to the system and click the reference number, the reference number of the candidate, and upload their entry. So within these 2 weeks, because we have just opened it for 2 weeks since
so when we
and it will close on the 16th February. So we don't expect any school again to fall short at the end of the day.
So what will happen to those candidates whose heads of schools refuse to send their continuous assessments? What will happen to them?
Well, the moment we open the portal, we ask every school authority. For the CAS Year 1, when we started this system last year, it was open from November 2022 up to July, nearly 9 months for them to submit continuous assessment for Year 1.
And yet you had people who failed to do that.
Well, we don't know. Those of the schools that have regular candidates, you have your regular candidate and you promoted them up to SS3 before we ask you now to send continuous assessment for SS1 for them. These candidates are already in SS3 and they are now going to take the examination for this 2024.
Oh, Mr. Kamara,
so we ask you for
Mr. Kamara, let us talk about this.
months.
You know, it is very important. The thing is, now, this issue of continuous assessment, you know, has become an issue, you know, which is being discussed, you know, at every level, you know. So, how can somebody automatically get to SS3 without a continuous assessment? The thing is, what is supposed to be the procedure is that you have to be assessed continuously, of course. The reason it is called continuous assessment. So what happens to somebody who automatically appears at SS3 without continuous assessment?
No, well, it is not possible because before what we experienced was that we have problem during the process. When we have conducted the exams and now we request school authorities to forward this continuous assessment for the past 3 years so that they can forward it, we have a lot of problem during the process of results. So very recently now we thought it fit that when you promote your candidate from SS1 to SS2, submit the continuous assessment for the SS1 of that candidate to WAEC. So that in terms of processing the results now, we don't have any problem again with you. And now let us take, for example, we have some transfers in certain schools. Any candidate that you submit continuous assessment for, that candidate has a reference number. Wherein if you are transferring, for example, those parents who are government workers, perhaps you are in Bo, now you've been transferred to Freetown and you want to come with your child. So you can ask the principal of
now,
that secondary
according to Mr. Kamara,
yes.
According to the Ministry of Education,
Yes.
Basic education,
Yes.
basic and senior secondary school education, they are saying that they are paying, because they are the ones paying the fees,
Yes.
especially for the wards.
Yes, sir.
You know, they say they are paying for people they are not supposed to be paying for. You understand? And if that is the case, it does mean that there are people who are not supposed to be in the system who are there.
That is the thing. Before it happens, of course, and of course again they are the one who submit the list to us, and this is the same issue that we are talking about. The list that they have now submitted to us, it is that list that we are going to work with. If a school authority submits 130 candidates to ministry, and ministry vets and ensure that only 100 candidates qualify for the exams, we are going to take only those 100 candidates to take the exams, and we are going to accredit into the system that school only for 100 candidates. You cannot exceed that. And at the end of the day, when we shall have our final list, we also have to print it and submit it again to the ministry, that this is the total number of candidatures that we have for WAS, for school candidate 2024. So, and they also need to certify that before ever we
now.
To any other
The thing is that this delays, in submission of continuous assessments and even candidates for these examinations, it is like it has been a perennial problem or a challenge in a way. So how do you address this one?
No, well, now, for now, as I'm talking to you now, we don't have any problem again with continuous assessment, because the schools that are now into our system have already forwarded their continuous assessment. So we have them. It is now time for them to do the entries for the examination based on the continuous assessment that they have submitted. So it is just about clicking the reference number of the candidate, then they upload their entries. So in case now a school had submitted 200 candidates and ministry found out that all those 200 candidates, we only have 150 that are qualified based on the criteria that they set up. So we are only going to accredit that
Now,
school for only 150.
Mr. Kamara, Nelson Mandela once said, and I quote, it doesn't matter whether the cat is white or black, as long as it can catch mice. You understand? So how are you going to catch these mice?
We don't have problem with that, because we have the list that the ministry has vetted. They have submitted this list to WAEC, and of course we have again the soft copy of the schools in our system. So we are going to go through the list that the ministry has submitted, and we are able to ensure that the qualified candidates are entered for the exam, and those that do not qualify, of course, these are lists that they also have to certify before ever we present for any other process to go on. They have to pay, as you have said. So if they have in their system that we certified 1,500 candidates for WAS for school candidates, then if we have in our system 2,500, it will not work.
So Mr. Kamara, my concern is sometimes some candidates are not aware of what you are saying. So we normally get them here, they are always say, complaining WAEC not send me name, WAEC don't seize. We have series of complaints coming from students whenever the time like this arrives, because when you have time for examination and entries, they will always come here to complain WAEC, knowing that sometimes they feel it's WAEC, forgetting that they have to go through their schools and that of the Ministry of Education. How have you tried to make sure you get the ministry to understand some of these situations that you face at WAEC and with the schools?
Well, you've said it all. For school candidates, of course, when we have any communication that they need, we talk to the school authorities. So the school authorities, it is their own responsibility to talk to the candidates. And even these entries, we are not responsible for that. They have to do everything. What they submit online is what we are going to take. We are not doing the entries for the school themselves, do their own entries.
Do you normally send your people to schools to educate teachers?
Of course, we train them, and even now we have desk officers, even in our region, even in Freetown. When you have problem with your entries, go to the office again, we'll be able to assist. We have them all over.
All right, thank you very much. He is Sltu Kamara, and he is the PRO from West Africa Examination Council, WAEC, and the program is Good Morning, Leone. We now go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue with the program.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm